What kids movie has no right to be as good as it is? Emperor's New Groove. Yzma and Kronk are easily the funniest Disney villains of all time. Other villains like Gaston, Ursula, or Scar have funny moments, but ultimately become legitimate scary threats by the end. Or Frollo or Shan Yu, who have no humor to redeem them at all. Kronk and Yzma, however, remain amusing throughout, and survive on top of that. Eartha Kitt and Patrick Warburton had such great comedic delivery. Yzma, that's it. Kronk, break the door down. Kronk, break it down. Are you kidding me? This is hand-carved mahogany. My favorite will always be Hades with Pain and Panic as sidekicks. Just the perfect combination of funny and scary. The Iron Giant. Second place, The Brave Little Toaster. The Iron Giant has some of the absolutely best animation. My wife always likes to look my way at the ending. She knows the waterworks are coming. She gets a kick out of it. That kid movie and Wreck-It Ralph always get me to cry at the same scene. Ratatouille. A bunch of rats in a restaurant should not make such a great movie, but it does make a masterpiece of a movie. I think the food critic Antonego's speech at the end is possibly one of the greatest bits of writing in cinema history. The world is often unkind to new talent, new creations. The new needs friends. Last night, I experienced something new, an extraordinary meal from a singularly unexpected source. To say that both the meal and its maker have challenged my preconceptions about fine cooking is a gross understatement. They have rocked me to my core. In the past, I have made no secret of my disdain for Chef Gusteau's famous motto, anyone can cook. But I realize, only now do I truly understand what he meant. Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere. El Dorado, Atlantis, Treasure Planet. Oh, how everyone has forgotten Treasure Planet. There were several factors that ended up meaning that most people considered it a flop when it truly wasn't. Dang it, Jim. I'm an astronomer, not a doctor. Well, I'm a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor. I have a doctorate. It's not the same thing. You just sit there and you're useless. Matilda. Danny DeVito and Miss Trunchbull are great. Matilda is such a classic. I remember always trying to move random crap with my mind after watching it as a kid. Never worked and still doesn't, but it's worth a try every time. I always wanted Cheerios just for this reason, so I could practice my telekinesis. Never worked, and that is also how I discovered my hatred for Cheerios. Kung Fu Panda. You'd expect a lot of fat jokes and not much else, but all three movies are fantastic in terms of action, drama, and emotions. I avoided these movies for so long because I thought they looked dumb as hell, and I also don't always care for Jack Black. Then my kids got obsessed with these movies, and every time I watched it, I noticed something new and became more and more impressed. It's got a solid story, solid mythology, and the movie is constantly referencing itself and keeping itself aligned with its themes. The fact that the movie is full of scenes of Po doing random stuff and getting hurt in random ways, and then every single one of those incidents is brought back in the fight at the end, is just amazing to me. I only just realized that in the big fight with Tai Lung in the first one, that Po visualized the dragon scroll as one of Monkey's cookies and used it to climb up the wall face to get it. Incredible continuity with the scene where his kung fu skills first materialized. How to Train Your Dragon. As a 30-year-old man, it remains my favorite movie of all time. Perfect writing, perfect voice acting, perfect music, perfect animation. Toothless, a dragon with 0 lines of dialogue, has more personality than most kids movie protagonists. Fun fact, that movie uses more callback lines than any I've ever seen. I counted once, and there's more than 15 lines of dialogue that get repeated at different points throughout the movie to show change or character development. This includes, but is not limited to, "This is Burke. Thank you for summing that up. You just gestured to all of me. That's for everything else. Oh, I'm hurt. I'm very much hurt. I did this. Why didn't you? We are Vikings." It's an occupational hazard. Also notable for having shockingly good sequels as well. The second movie is arguably as good as the first, and the third, while not quite as good as the first two, is nonetheless excellent and a worthy conclusion to the series. And it's the only movie I can remember with positive representation for amputees. It's expected for an amputee to be the villain. We also have that, but not the main character, from movie 2. Megamind. Oh, you're a villain alright, just not a super one. Oh yay, what's the difference? Presentation. This scene is just so good. There's a webcomic I used to read that said the difference between good and evil was often just perspective and fashion sense. All while Ace and Gromit films are fantastic. But A Grand Day Out was made on PS 10000, and you can tell, not because it's shoddy, but because not a single movement of its clay animation is wasted. It's perfect. The amount of time and effort that film must have taken baffles me. The ending of A Grand Day Out brings me to tears of delight. Even hits harder with age and experience. It's a box that doesn't talk, and yet you can feel every emotion it's feeling. When you see it skiing up and down, and the simple pleasure it's expressing, it's just wonderful. The Lego Movie. I was expecting it to be a 90-minute toy commercial. Instead it was really good, with a good message about creativity and some great songs. Also, Lego Batman was better than most live-action superhero movies. These movies were so hysterical. My kids begged me to watch with them. I begrudgingly said yes. I thought it would be so dumb. I loved them. To the point where, after we had watched it several times, when there was a movie night months later, I would suggest Lego Batman and my son would be like, "Moo again." Another kids movie that blew me away was The Mitchells vs the Machines. The Mitchells vs the Machines was probably the last place I expected to see Kill Bill references. Lilo and Stitch. I watched this again recently as an adult, and I realized it's a story about an older sister trying to keep her family together with some aliens thrown in. Had me crying throughout the whole thing. Much different than how I remembered it as a kid. Yeah, it's really heavy. Like they even got Lilo's acting out, and tantrums from trying to process losing her parents right. WALL-E. It has all the right to be as good. It was still made in the golden age of Pixar. Edit. Paddington 2 was the best kids movie ever made. The Goofy movie smacked while I was a kid. And even more so now that I'm a grown ass man. Edit. Glad to see I have this in common with so many people. You all are the goats. Also, thanks for the awards. I was an assistant manager at a movie theater when it came out. I could get my family into movies free, but I had to go with them. When that movie came out, my little brother begged me to take him. I brought him, my sister and my mom, thinking I'd duck out after a few minutes and shoot the crap in the office with whoever was working. I ended up watching every minute and absolutely loving it. My mother, a woman now well into her 60s, still loves this movie to this day. She pulled out her old VHS copy when we were there for Easter and we all watched it. It 100% holds up over time, and I think it's one of the best father/son movies I've ever seen. Edit. Thank you for the gold, kind stranger. It showed a side of Goofy I never had seen before. A serious one. I'm grown up, Dad. I have my own life now. I know that. I just wanted to be part of it. That line I will always feel. Up. I'm an adult man and the opening sequence just broke my heart. I sobbed like I haven't in a very long time. I feel like everyone forgets the scene where Carl looks through the adventure book. I feel like that is more emotional than the opening. Carl believes that he didn't get to take Ellie on the adventure she wanted, only to realize that their life was the adventure and she wouldn't trade it for anything. Thanks for the adventure. Now go have a new one. I can't believe no one has said it, but I personally love The Prince of Egypt. I'm not religious, but that movie is so well made. The soundtrack is fantastic. I get mad chills at Deliver Us. Treasure Planet classic literature meets science fiction interpretation that I found delightful and would watch again and again. I was obsessed with this movie when it came out. I was 15, and so was the main character, and I think I just felt his loneliness and uncertainty about his future so deep down in my soul. It's so hard for kids to deal with that feeling of not belonging and not living up to the expectations being put on you. It felt like the movie was kind of panned upon its release and nobody around me seemed to like it. Plus being into animation / Disney movies at age 15 felt so uncool. But this movie basically helped me decide that I wanted to be an animator and make movies and tell stories that could help other people feel less alone too. Now I'm an animator / animation director and it feels so fitting. It's also really uplifting to see that people appreciate this movie now, even though it got such lukewarm reception when it first came out. It gives me hope that the stuff I work on that isn't as well received or popular right now might still be reaching people in unexpected places. One sincere kind word about a project I work on still outweighs 100 bad reviews. The song I'm Still Here was the anthem of our emo group. A Muppet Christmas Carol is the best version of A Christmas Carol. Light the lamp, not the rat. Light the lamp, not the rat. Holes 100%. Nearly flawless movie. In 5th grade I read the book and immediately afterwards reread it with my parents. We all loved it. The movie is an excellent adaptation, largely thanks to the screenplay having been written by the author. Don't forget the ridiculously good casting. All the Mice movies, An American Tale, plus Fievel Goes West, Secret of NIMH, The Rescuers, plus Down Under. I lived in New York for a while and was horrified by the thought of having to kill a little Fievel. Edit. Never watched The Great Mouse Detective, but I'm thinking I'm gonna have a classic Mice movies day and watch it. The Great Mouse Detective is the best Sherlock adaptation, changed my mind. Fantastic movie and very underrated when it comes to Disney movies in general, I think. Spirited Away. Studio Ghibli is its own league. Studio Ghibli doesn't make kids movies, they make incredible films that can speak to anybody. Monster Incorporated. XLIT. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Coco had absolutely no right to be as good as it was. First act, it's a silly kids movie. Last act, what, no way. I saw the ending coming from a mile away and I bawled for half the movie including the ending. Heavyweights. That movie is hilarious. Edit. Thanks for the award, kind stranger. Hi. Judd Apatow, man. Can't beat it. Some of my favorite movie quotes are from Heavyweights. Attention campers, lunch has been cancelled due to lack of hustle. Deal with it. I did not send you to go-kart camp. Don't put Twinkies on your pizza. Never let anyone sign your checks. I need them to make the final movie in the Tony Perkis trilogy. Edit. The sequel to Heavyweights is Dodgeball. For everyone asking, Jerry Stiller's delivery on "Never let anyone sign your checks" is one of the funniest lines ever said. I also love when the bus driver pulls up and opens the door and says, "I'm looking for several portly adolescents." Ratatouille. Remember watching it as a teen and loving it, and now I can appreciate even more of it. The designs, the animation, and the fact that those Pixar folks made us cheer and love a rat. Also, School of Rock is just amazing how good it is. The soundtrack is one of the best out there and all the children acted amazing. And what to say about Jack Black? He is just great every time. I love Jack Black's speech to the one girl who was self-conscious about her weight and saying that Aretha Franklin is big, but everyone wants to party with Aretha. Princess Bride. It has everything. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes, and let's not forget the Man in Black predicted the following. Fezzik, why are you wearing a mask? Were you burned by acid or something like that? Man in Black. Oh, no, it's just they're terribly comfortable. Fezzik swings a punch and misses. I think everyone will be wearing them in the future. Edit 2. Thanks for the awards. My first ever. Even rodents of unusual size? Hook. Way better than any children's movie I can think of besides Princess Bride or The Neverending Story. Robin Williams opposite Dustin Hoffman with Bob Hoskins and Julia Roberts, all playing characters like it was the most fun they'd ever had. Whenever I see that "Oh there you are Peter" scene I get teared up. That kid that's still inside all of us. It hits home even more now. Big Hero 6. Hair Why Baby. We jumped out a window. The Sandlot. Somebody once said why The Sandlot is so good. It's not about winning, it's about being a team. That speaks a lot to this movie and why it's so damn rewatchable. I was floored by Coco. Turned it on as a take a nap on couch movie, and here I'm totally invested in the story and tearing up. I was pleasantly surprised that my 7-year-old son loves Coco and watched it on repeat for a long time. I thought it might be a little too deep and emotional for him to be into, but he loves it. Shrek 2. The fairy godmother singing "Holding Out for a Hero" while Shrek, Donkey and Puss in Boots are storming the castle with help from friends is one of the greatest cinematic moments of our time. I will fight anyone who says otherwise. Edited the song name. I even got a little sad when the giant gingerbread man fell into the water. That cover of "I Need a Hero" might be one of the best covers in any movie. Treasure Planet. Marketing did that movie so dirty. It is the only Disney movie that I'd be down for a remake of. Just do it, can get the love that it deserves. Enter the Spider-Verse. Arguably the best superhero movie ever. That leap of faith still is my desktop background at work. I think this might be my favorite movie, and that includes non-comic book movies. I think the scene at the end, when Miles is holding onto Peter's shirt and uses the line back at him, is one of my favorite scenes out of any movie ever. Not bad, kid. George in the Jungle. Say what you want, but Brendan Fraser was a big part of my childhood after dinner, especially in The Mummy and The Mummy 2. We taped George of the Jungle off the TV on VHS with all the ads, and one of the news anchors in the ads became one of our favorites because he was almost part of the movie for us. He said something like, "Well, now from George of the Jungle to George in New York." Turned out he was high all the time on the news and got fired for it. He's clean now. I just looked it up. Love you, Darren from TV3, wherever you are. Kaya Kaha. Meet the Robinsons. I have a big head and little arms. I don't think this plan was very well thought out. My family loves that line and use it whenever a plan is not working out. "Why aren't you seizing the boy?" is constantly said in my house. Banana. That last song at the end gets that lump in the throat going every single time. And it's crazy because my daughters could watch it on repeat, lol. Edit. Never did I ever think I'd get any type of award for bringing up a movie my daughter loved to watch, and that I legitimately don't mind watching with them. I'll let you guys in on something that I'm working on talking more openly about. 2 of my daughter have rare genetic conditions. One with Wolff-Hirschhorn syndrome and partial trisomy 18, and one has Wolff-Hirschhorn syndrome and trisomy 20. We found this movie in Children's Hospital while my daughter was in the PICU after a long seizure. We never saw her so calm. The sounds alone helped calm her down. Then she got to actually watch it, and man, it was all Moana after that. Whether we're home or staying in the hospital, Moana is close by, lol. Now her little sister, unfortunately, is under similar circumstances, but we put the movie on and she goes to sleep, lol. I love it. Even their older brother and sister enjoy the movie. I'm still getting used to even talking about it, being the carrier and all, because of the guilt I have, feeling like this crap is all my fault. Even typing this is hard, and I'm over here sweating. Thanks Redditors, your Lardopaf. My wife keeps telling me sharing will help. Even if it doesn't help me, hopefully it'll help someone else. Orly Ikravalho just absolutely slayed that vocal and every line in that movie. Wreck-It Ralph. I'm bad. And that's good. I will never be good. And that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. I was in tears laughing when this came up in the very beginning. Bad Guys Anonymous. I mean, freaking genius. Hysterical. But man, when it comes up at the end, whoa, I was a sobbing mess. Amazing how those arcs work. Just because you are bad guy does not mean you are bad guy. Inside Out. It was so good that since then every time a kids movie goes into the roster I feel optimistic that it could be as good as Inside Out. But the Bing Bong scene just gets me deep down inside. Like ugly crying to the shock of my children. I full on ugly sobbed in the theater. I knew what was about to happen by the tone of his voice as he says, "Okay, let's give it one more try." Like, damn it Disney, I was not prepared for this. The Land Before Time, An American Tale, and All Dogs Go to Heaven. These Don Bluth films from the 1980s are just on another level when it comes to kid movies. Add The Secret of NIMH to that list. The Incredibles is still the best superhero movie ever made. It is also my favorite movie to explain the film plot badly because you can make it sound like an X-rated film without lying. Labyrinth. David Bowie is amazing, and that is some of the slickest puppeteering I've ever seen. Jim Henson was an absolute genius when it came to puppeteering. Ferngully. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. My name is Batty. My logic is erratic. My brain's all static. Humans don't have tails. They have big bottoms that they wear with bad shorts. And they walk around going hi Helen. Price check on prune juice Bob. Price check on prune juice. Tangled. It perfectly shows off emotional manipulation, and the songs and art are fantastic. My only critique is that we didn't get to see the aftermath of Rapunzel coming to terms with her trauma, but it's understandable given the time restraints and target audience. Small Soldiers from 1998 still holds up and still freaking awesome. I haven't even thought about that movie in years. The Lion King. As far as I'm concerned, Lion King was peak Disney. Watched it with the kids dozens of times and was really pleased when I got to watch it with my granddaughter. For sure, when Disney had its renaissance in the late 80s and 90s, starting with The Little Mermaid, The Lion King was definitely the peak. It became the highest grossing animated film ever, still the record for traditional animation, and was a critical darling. Homeward Bound. Live action talking pet movie shot mostly in the woods with limited human interaction. If you didn't get emotional when Shadow returns home, you have no soul. When Chance bounds over the hill, I start crying. By the time Shadow limps over the hill, I'm sobbing. I'm 40. I've been crying at this ending for decades. Zootopia. My favorite buddy cop movie. Kubo and the Two Strings. It's an amazing story and is so underrated. Paddington. Well, the source material was good already, but boy did the movies honor that and took it to a next level. Second did this, and the movies reviewed amazingly well, but I still put off watching them for a while because it didn't feel up our alley. But when we finally decided to give the movies a shot, wow. Charming, funny, poignant, laugh till you cry, hilarious at times, and just a very lovely, uplifting experience. Great movies. The Prince of Egypt. Not only one of the best animated movies, but one of the best religious movies. I'm an atheist. This is how you do it. The story, the songs, the script, the animation, the character arcs. Wonderful. Spirit. Stallion of the Cimarron. Although the franchise has now been ruined. Yes, the Og movie was amazing, especially for a kid obsessed with horses. And the soundtrack, and the scenery. And I love Spirit. But you are spot on about the franchise being ruined forever with the TV series and the new movie. Mitchells vs the Machines. First thing that I thought of after reading the question. The fact it's solo down suggests that not enough people have seen it. One of my favorite films of the past few years. It's from the same team that made Spider-Verse, which frankly should also be on this list if one were to consider it a children's film. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Considering the source material, it shouldn't have been good, but it was. The Pixar movie, Soul. The way they tackled incredibly complex thoughts and feelings and made it palatable for kids just blows my mind. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Over 30 years later, and this movie is still great and effects hold up so much better than CGI from movies a lot newer than that, because of how they made it with hand drawing the cartoons onto cells. That wasn't really aimed at kids though. Kubo and the Two Strings. As is the case with Leica films, the animation is fluid, vibrant, and expressive, but it's also worth noting that the film's story feels emotionally complete. Although Kubo seemed to come and go with relatively little fanfare, it did receive Oscar nominations for both Best Animated Feature and Best Visual Effects, and it is apparently the first film to be nominated for both. The only significant knock is that there are barely any Japanese or Japanese American voice actors featured in a movie that is supposed to be a samurai epic of sorts, but Kubo does incorporate element of Japanese folklore in a natural and powerful way. 1995 A Little Princess. First of all, it is utterly gorgeous. They do not undercut the strong emotions that a child would feel. Parts are genuinely heartbreaking. parts are extremely scary, but the overall message is so beautiful and hopeful and positive I can't recommend it enough. I'm surprised Meet the Robinsons hasn't been mentioned. For a movie about time travel and really weird looking animation, it's surprisingly hilarious and well written. Flushed Away is easily one of the funniest movies of all time. So many little in-jokes and goofy references. I've seen it easily a couple dozen times, and I still giggle like a child. Coco. I feel like it didn't get the credit it deserved, but I thought it was way better than Frozen, which has received way more attention. Such a great movie, but I cried like a baby. Grown man. The Road to El Dorado. Loved it when I was younger. Love it even more now that I'm older. The two leads are just so darn charismatic and nearly every joke lands perfectly. Sky High. Also, Shark Boy and Lavagirl. You're hitting me right in the nostalgia. I forgot Sky High was a thing. Cat in the Hat.